Okay.
You can be my backup.
Excuse me?
And make Panthers fans forget about you. And become your mom's favorite player.
Whoa.
I'm just loosening my arm.
Armchair.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
But what the hell, boy?
Make sure to listen to the Armchair Quarterbacks. Good enough for us down here in the bayou. Go Tigers and the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Good morning.
Armchair.
YouTube Live.
CBS Sports
Radio Station.
The radio station you can call your own. Do you know what listeners like about our station? It's everything.
I like everything. It's always on my radio.
Never stop the music, except for now, when I talk.
Good morning. It's time to wake up, y'all. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Show. We're here weekdays on CBS Radio, YouTube Live, the Armchair Quarterback Show, your first choice for Southern Sports Talk. Good morning, Mr. Justin Waller.
Good morning. Not on much, but I know one thing. If you missed the overtime of last night's game, you're going to start taking naps. What a great bookend to the NFL weekend and the sorriness that was Sunday.
Hi, I'm Mac McGinn. I don't know much, but I know one thing. Baltimore's in trouble, man. Baltimore's in trouble because their defense that they supposedly lean on, they couldn't stop water last night in the second half. And Darren Waller, well, he made some fantasy football ballers out there a little happier this morning. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Well, if you stand and block the screen, you may just lose your life. And that goes for all 30 friends and 30 friends' wives.
Hey, howdy, hi, top of the morning to you. Welcome to the Armchair Quarterback Radio Show. Mac McGee alongside Justin Waller. Justin, how the hell are you this morning, sir? You've muted yourself, Justin.
Still having technical difficulties. I'm sleepy and tired. Obviously, can't take myself off mute, but man, I'm still jacked up. What a football game! That was the game I was missing on Sunday.
So, what skin did you have in that game to keep you up watching the Raiders and Ravens?
I'm not going to tell you the amount, but I had the Raiders, and they won twice. And I want to tell you, that was heartbreaking.
Did you have them on the money line? Or
yes.
Wow.
Straight up.
Nice. I took the under, so I got hit on that one. But all in all, a really good weekend here. My wife was really happy of that we're up almost, I guess, 300% from what we put into a DraftKings when we were in Nashville, but now we have to cash out. But that's okay. We'll transfer it to the offshore gig that I use. So that Baltimore defense, I just wasn't impressed by it last night at all. They play, first of all, I think they're really, really predictable. And Gruden kind of mentioned it in the post game where you just knew what defense they were going to run. They were either going to run the zero or if they're trying to on third and long, they're going to run Tampa 2. And I didn't see a lot of exotic blitzes that I've been kind of known or that Baltimore's been known to do. I was a little disappointed in Baltimore's defense all in all, but Derek Carr, man, 434 yards or 35 yards, hell of a game. He's got to find another receiver that's going to step up because Darren Waller, 19 targets, that's great for his fantasy owners, but you're eventually going to wear that dude down and get him hurt, right? So I guess Edwards had an okay game, but they've got to find another way to move the ball, I guess, is what there. And And honestly, the Raiders are who I think we think they are. They're a good team that's going to be a pain, but they're not any kind of threat to go deep into the playoffs. Baltimore, I think a lot of people still think that they are a team that's a threat to go in the playoffs. I don't think they are. They're going to be so one-dimensional with Jackson. I think they're going to have a really difficult time consistently moving the ball week in and week out. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to come a point in time he's going to make the amazing plays. I mean, he just has the athletic talent to do that. But you saw when it came crunch time, he didn't put the ball on the numbers, and they didn't make the catches, and that offense didn't move. And that allowed the Raiders to come back in. Remember, they scored the game-winning field goal, or what should have been with, 47 seconds left, I think. 37 or 47. It wasn't a lot of time. It was under a minute, and they marched down and get the field goal. And you just knew right there that how were they going to compete and move the ball the way that the Raiders were. They got one-dimensional, it seemed. And with the lack of running game and the injuries they've had, I don't think that survives a full extra game this year, 17 games.
Yeah, look, he had 12 carries. That's not necessarily out of the norm for him. But what is out of the norm is that none of his running backs out carried him. And so Murray had 10 carries. The guy who's supposed to be their bell cow, Williams, only had 9 carries. He did much more with those carries than Murray did. But my point is, man, they're going to have to find something. Moving on from that, there was big news yesterday. Just as I was texting you about what we may want to talk about, here comes the big news. Southern Cal said, "Nuh-uh, we done." And we've joked about this in the summer about how long it would take Southern Cal to get tired of Helton, because first of all, he's not the athletic director. That's not his guy to begin with. But it took him one game to get fired. One game. I'm not necessarily surprised that he got fired. I'm surprised he got fired this early in the season. I don't know how this is going to help the team going forward. Maybe there's an underlying issue that I'm not aware of, but my God, I mean, they're just saying they're basically chucking the 2021 season and going out on the coaching search now. What say you?
I want to know if there's any ties between the AD and Urban Meyer. Didn't you say he's a little riled up and yelling at players and not used to not winning in the NFL?
Yeah.
This is getting ahead of it, right?
I might be a year or two off, but I've said all along that Urban Meyer was headed to Southern Cal, and I can see it as plain as day now. It's become such a big deal. They were talking about that on New York radio this morning, right? That they weren't talking about our obvious connect the dots theory, but they were talking about how Urban Meyer has been losing his cool. He's been taking over all the practices. So in other words, as opposed to just being like the CEO and delegating, saying, "Hey, defensive back coach, you do this and you do that," he's going over and actually taking over every single practice. Well, a head coach can't do that. It's impossible. So there's only so many hours in the day. You can't be every single place. So already he's starting to crack. I mean, I give it halfway through the season and he's going to be faking a heart attack and taking the USC job. I don't see any other way around it. Is he going to be able to sustain? What if the Jaguars start off like 0-5, 0-6, which they may very well do? Is he going to be able to sustain that mentally? I don't know.
I mean, if you had a job like that sitting there, why would you? I mean, I think it's a smooth move by USC if it's something that's actually in their cards and they have considered, which, with his broadcast ties and you've heard grumblings, you have to think that's been laid out there before to him at some point. So hey, it's they now have a year-long coaching search. I don't understand why you didn't do it in the off season. I think you knew what you had in Helton. This probably could have happened 2 years ago, but you came back and gave another chance and completely could have put yourself ahead and still been sitting here right at the same spot 2 games in this year with a new regime. So now your reset's even longer and you're adding to it, but you will get your coach. You have your opportunity.
They're going to get somebody now. Whether or not Urban Meyer actually, if he shocks everybody and actually rides this out, and Urban Meyer coaches the Jaguars 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it may be, do you have someone else in mind that you think that then the USC could be eyeballing at this point?
Not particularly off the top of my head. I mean, I laugh, the old ball coach, Jeff Fisher, just throwing it out there. Just seeing his coaching and getting back into the college and being here as an advisor at Tennessee State, I could see that, or any other. There's numerous former players that you could drop in that hat. I'm not familiar with where they are and
I think
what they've been doing in their post-coaching.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be somebody splashy, right?
Yeah.
Southern Cal's got to get, so if it's not an Urban Meyer, it might be someone who's doing a good job at their current college gig that could be lured away to go to Southern Cal, the bright lights, the big city of Los Angeles. So with that being said, Mike Norvell is safe. He is not going anywhere. They're going to be looking for someone who is good as opposed to someone who is not good.
Saban. He's pretty good.
He's not leaving Bama.
No, I know, but I mean, can I just
Sweeney,
try to find a way to get him out of here?
Sweeney's not leaving. I'll tell you who could be if he had a good season this year. What about Dan Mullen? Couldn't you see him leaving? Because Southern Cal is definitely a more prestigious gig than Florida. Not that Florida's a bad gig, don't get me wrong, but it's more prestigious than that. And it would also get him the hell out of the SEC.
I don't know enough about the Mullins' personal life, but I'm gonna bet they probably don't want to live in Los Angeles. Now, I don't know if you can make enough money in the world to be the coach of USC, and that can make you your own compound where you can do what you want and feel like you have a city. But I don't want to live in LA, so I don't know that Southern Cal is that. That's stupid take there. I mean, yes, it's a lucrative job, but you got to think of living right now. I mean, to me, Florida way outranks Southern Cal right now.
Right, but you're thinking that from a political standpoint. I'm
just living way of life. I mean, leave the politics. No matter which side you're thinking, do you want to live in Los Angeles?
I'm talking about a guy like Mullen who may want the bright lights in the big city because there's big money there. I'm not saying that's where he's going to retire. Right. But, you know, there's a lot of people that work their ass off in New York City and in Los Angeles and then retire in Florida. Right. So, and it's kind of funny. You don't see it the other way around. You never see someone go, can't wait to retire so I can go live in downtown Brooklyn. It's like nobody does it the other way. So as much junk as they'll talk about the state of Florida, they're always going towards us. They're never going away from us.
You see someone like,
I'm also looking at him being able to, like, what would Mullen's ultimate goal be, right? National championship, right? Isn't your path a lot easier if you're at Southern Cal and in Los Angeles and you only have to, a lot easier to be the big dog in that conference than it is to beat out the Georgias, the Alabamas. You talked about yesterday, Arkansas could be up and coming. Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. I would almost say Jimbo Fisher would be an option for Southern Cal, but they just signed him to an extension, which floored me. I was like, man, you gave the dude 10 years, $75 million. Did you really have to extend him? So I'm thinking of someone who's at what about PJ Fleck at Minnesota? If he has a decent season, would he leave? Because he didn't want to leave to go to Florida State, understandably. But what if, but the lure of Southern Cal and that money, man, I just think that's a very difficult one to turn down. If you're a head football coach and your big thing is you want to win a national championship, right?
You definitely have the facilities and you have the conference to do that.
You got a better chance of winning a national championship at Southern Cal than you do at any of the other schools I just mentioned, Minnesota, Florida. I don't think Kirby.
I'll say any not named: Oklahoma, Alabama, or Clemson, or Ohio State. Aside from them four, USC is probably number 5. Your fastest way to it.
Yeah, I can't think of any because I don't think Cristobal will leave Oregon because he's really building something at Oregon, and when you're and and he knows what Chip Kelly couldn't figure out. When you can get to that top dog at Oregon and you build it the right way, you're going to have the facilities to compete on any level. There's no real reason to go out there and leave Oregon to go to Southern Cal, because I did see that rumor out there last night. I was like, man, I just don't see Cristobal leaving. He's having a hell of recruiting classes.
I feel like you need a Dion, but Dion's not going to Southern Cal, wouldn't he? I mean, I think he sees the writing on the wall. Florida State's going to be calling pretty soon. I mean, I hate to.
Southern Cal doesn't want Dion. I mean,
but I mean, I'm saying they need an electric. They need that player, and I don't know, has Reggie Bush been coaching? I mean, they need their former. I think you need to find that Dion.
If Dion goes to a Florida State or a Southern Cal or whatever, it's because Dion has convinced whoever's hiring that he's going to bring big name assistants with him, and he's just going to be the figurehead that helps recruit, right? That he's just the guy that's going to go in the living room, go, don't you want to play with prime time, right? And that's his job, but he's going to have enough.
Well, in the day and age of the transfer portal and NIL. Who else would you want coaching your kid other than Dion?
Right. I'm trying to think of a Southern Cal alum that could do the same thing. I mean,
Keyshawn, maybe.
Keyshawn, Reggie Bush. Are they electric enough personalities and big enough personalities to recruit like Dion? Probably not. But they're going to help. They're definitely going to help. I wonder if these guys have the desire to do that, because I'm looking at it as, if I'm Keyshawn Johnson and I'm at ESPN and I'm having fun doing my talk shows, and I'm making a decent living, do I really want to get into the ring of the college coach? Because if I fail miserably, is that what I'm going to be remembered for? And will I still have the same gigs available? But then again, these guys are competitors or athletes, and they might just get bored. Right. They might just say, man, I'm tired of getting up at 3-4 in the morning to do a 6 a.m. show till 10 a.m. And then that's my day. And then I just kind of go back to the same routine. Now, for folks like us, we would love that gig. We would love, to get paid to do that. But these guys have lived a different lifestyle than we have overall. I can't think of anyone else big name. And I mean, hell, did they just go get an actor? They just go get an actor that's a USC alum and make them the NIL deal. I don't know who's graduated from USC, but I'm sure there's plenty of actors that have. Has to be.
I'm speechless on that one, because I mean, where do you go in that one? I could go so many places. That's a whole segment. We need to come up with that. Actors to coach USC Friday. Sounds like a great show.
I mean, why not? I don't know their acting backgrounds. I'd have to do a deep dive, but I know that they're known for that as a part of their curriculum. And why not? Why not? She didn't go to USC, but I'm thinking of like a Lady Gaga. You know what I mean? Why not? What the hell?
But I think more USC style will be go to pick an Adam Gase or something per se. I think they're going to go look NFL first, see what they can scoop, see who's sitting on the sideline.
Come back.
Do you talk one of the retired quarterbacks to come out and coach, or bring them into the staff and help you lure that? Pete Carroll is that'd be phenomenal. What if Russell tells him I'm done after this? He's like, you know what? USC's looking pretty good.
Yeah. I want out. You want out. I got dibs. I'm out of here. I mean, could Pete Carroll come back? But even better question, is he allowed to come back? I do cheated quite a bit. Is he still on the list?
For real? I mean,
for real.
Coaches that have cheated have come back and coached a lot of places.
Well, I know at the time that he got popped, he was put on that list. I forget what they called, but they're basically saying that if you come back and coach in X amount of years, the program would be on probation.
Okay, now I'm getting political. They don't use IDs in California. He can just use a different name.
He can go Bobby Valentine and put a Groucho Marx mask on. But in all seriousness, he's been gone for well over a decade. I'm sure that's gone by now. But
and the problem with that is how do you grab a coach that's had that and been going with the luxury of the draft and free agents? You're not going into living rooms and recruiting and hitting like day in and day out.
Bob Stoops.
That'd be a home run if you could pull it off. I mean, absolute home run. But I don't know. Bob's done. Now, I tell you, his brother. But nobody will. That's not splashy enough. They'll never consider that. But
what about Kingsbury if he goes out and gets fired this year? I know he had a great first week, but
yeah, I was going to say he's not getting fired after Sunday. Did you see that?
No, not after Sunday. But week 1 to me in the NFL has become like a preseason week. It's just you hope your team wins. But what you really hope is that your team is playing well by like week 3. Like that's really what it comes down to now, because none of the starters are playing anymore. So it's kind of a joke, to be honest with you, what the regular season has become in week 1. And I think what a lot of people are learning is, don't bet many spreads in week 1, because you don't know what team's going to come out there and play. Like some of those games, there's no way anyone could have predicted it. I did see a funny meme yesterday that said the last team that the Saints beat 38-3 went on to win the Super Bowl, and they had a picture of the Buccaneers, because remember when they throttled them about, what was it, around week 4 or 5 on that Sunday night game. So hope is not over with Packer fans. But one of the funniest things that you need to jump on Twitter this afternoon and check out.
Now there's your head coach for USC.
I retweeted this because I'll tell you right now, for the comments alone, it's worth getting onto Twitter and seeing this. They had a picture of Aaron Rodgers. Remember how I was talking about how terrible he looked with the long hair and the beard and everything? And the caption read, it was his face from Sunday with the long hair and the beard, and it said, "Who is this? Wrong answers only." And the lines were just coming, and people were just nailing it. It was funny as hell. They were grabbing like the one of the bad guys from Breaking Bad. If you're a Seinfeld fan, if you remember Slippery Pete, that was a very popular one with the guy that was moving the Frogger machine. But anyways, that was very entertaining. We have not talked baseball in a while, so I figure we might want to jump in on that a little bit, because the Braves are back in action today, and they are now 4.5 and 5.5 games up respectively in the NL East race. Now the AL East race is over. The Rays are going to run away with it. They're 8 games up, even after getting throttled last night. They're 8 games up. There's just not enough games for Toronto to catch Tampa or the Yankees or Boston for that matter. White Sox are going to cruise. The Astros are going to cruise. The Brewers almost have it sewn up. The Giants clinched a playoff spot last night, by the way. They're the first team to do it, which means the Dodgers are going to be right after that, because they're 2.5 games behind San Fran. What you really have of interest, if you're wanting to, all right, maybe my team's out of it, but I really want to watch some competitive baseball midweek. You're looking at the NL West race is still alive at 2.5, obviously. The NL East I still think this thing's going to come down to the wire, because Philly plays such an easy schedule, and Atlanta's only 4.5 up on them. They're 5 on the loss column, but they do play a 3-game set in Atlanta the final week of the season versus Philly. And then the other thing would be the AL wild card and NL wild card. And those wild cards, Justin, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are just not paying attention because football's back and whatnot. But Toronto is 1 game up. They would now be the host team if the season ended today, right? They've won 9 of the last 10. This team's on fire. The Yankees leapfrogged Boston last night as Boston lost and the Yankees won. Yankees were down 5-0 to Minnesota in the day game yesterday, and they came roaring back and won in extra innings. Boston loses out of Seattle. So not only are they're technically tied with the Yankees, but the Yankees have them on percentage points. Seattle is now 2 games behind Boston and have 2 more games in Boston. And the greedy Teamus, as he is, I tried to ask him yesterday. I said, look, if I could tell you that in that 3-game set in Seattle, Boston could come out and lose just lose 2 games. So in other words, you lose the series, but you don't get swept. Would you take that? No. I want to blah, blah, blah. All right, dude. I offered the same scenario a couple of weeks ago when Boston headed to Tampa. I said, if I could give you a split in a 4-game series, 2-2, would you take it right now? He said no. And then after the race took 3 or 4, I sent him a text and said, would you take it now? Now Boston's flailing, man. They're I still think they have a chance to hold on, but man, they got to get Sale back. The dude's out on the COVID list. They're not playing very good baseball, and they're going out west. That's usually not a good sign. We know that as Braves fans. What say you in this whole turmoil of events going on in baseball?
I mean, mine's mainly the National League wild card. I mean, you got 6 teams within 3.5 games of the 2 wild card spots. And if you go Dodgers, Reds, San Diego, and St. Louis, are those 4 within a half game of each other. That's what I want to see. 2 weeks to go in the season. That's what I want. I want a 4-pony race with 2 others that have a chance on the outside, and let's see what can happen. I mean, don't write the Mets off, buddy.
Yeah.
As much problem, or as we've heckled them this year, they looked good against the Yankees. They battled good. They're playing good baseball.
They laid an egg last night.
They dropped one yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, Wainwright has been pitching out of his mind the last couple of months. He has definitely pushed back the clock. It's like you said, we're going 5 wide into the final turn here.
And that's not even talking about the Phillies and the Braves and the fight that they're in for the East. Because I'm with you. I think this comes down, and I think this division is probably won by 1 game. If when it's said and done, I think the NL East is won by 1 game.
I'm always the proponent of, if I can get a series win, I'll take a series win, whether I'm at home or I'm on the road. I'm not greedy. I'm realistic when it comes to baseball, because it's that day starting pitcher. But I'm going to tell you right now, when you look at the schedule, I think the Braves almost have to sweep Colorado, because they're at home. If it was on the road, I would not be saying that, but if they're at home, and when you look at what's going to go down over the next several days, Atlanta, after they get done with this 3-game set, which, by the way, Thursday is a early game. It's a 12:20 Eastern start, because it's a getaway. And they're doing it that early because Atlanta begins a 10-game road trip out west. And that's going to be the most critical part of this season. If they can get a 3-game sweep, and I normally would say, man, give me 2 or 3, I'll take it every time with Major League Baseball. But, man, you almost have to get greedy here, because you're going to go to the Giants. You're going to go to the Diamondbacks and the Padres. And I know Diamondbacks and Padres have not played well, but, man, that is a 10-day road trip out west.
And the Padres Friday has a doubleheader.
Correct. One of the games is already played. What is it, in the 5th inning? The Braves are down 1 run. It's somewhere that, and I want to say that game was like a 7-inning game. I don't think it's a true game. I think it was a part of a doubleheader that got. So I'm not sure how that rule is going to go.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but with it being a partial, I just assumed it went 9 and the second one went 7. But will they chop it to 7 as well?
Well,
we'll have to find that out.
Well, my point is, that game that got shortened was a part of a doubleheader.
So it was 7 to begin. Okay.
It was originally a 7-inning game. So I think they're going to play 7. So the Braves are probably going to lose that game. They're down a run. It's either the 5th inning, it may be the 6th, but I think it's the 5th inning. So the Braves will be the home team on San Diego's field, because it was a home game in Atlanta. They just didn't want San Diego to have to fly all the way back to Atlanta just to play 2 or 3 innings. So that's going to be
that's where you negotiate for the W. I'm sorry. It's pay to fly or W. Give it to me. I mean, no, we're not flying out there down a run with 2 to go, and we're battling for the NL East. Who negotiated this?
Yeah. Could we at least have met you halfway? I don't know, like play in St. Louis or something. But yeah, so that's going to be critical. So I guess it's realistically an 11-game road trip. If they can go 6-5, I'll be elated. So that's why I think it's critical to get as big a lead as you can before you go out there. Because while we're doing that, the Phillies are playing like the Cubs and everyone else that sucks to known to man. I think this weekend, it's either this weekend or early next week. Yeah, okay, it is this weekend. Phillies are playing the Mets. So that's advantage Atlanta as far as you hope that the Mets can at least win one of those games.
That's how Atlanta ends up. They get the day off after they return from San Diego, and it's a 3 against the Phillies and 3 against the Mets to finish up the season.
Right. Now, if the Mets fall out of it, they're not even going to worry about having DeGrom, but DeGrom's thrown off the mound again because they're trying to get DeGrom back for that final week. So if the Mets even have an inkling of being able to make the wild card or whatnot, we could be facing DeGrom somewhere on that final weekend. That's not what you want. That's not what you want at all.
Well, that's a way to depress me at the end of my
segment. Somehow you got to square that up with Charlie Morton to give yourself a fighting chance to win that game. So this is going to get hairy. The only way it doesn't get hairy is if Philly just falls on their face like they normally do. If the Phillies go out there in Philly, we're going to be fine. But you look at what the Phillies have left. Oof. They're going to be playing the Cubs and then the Mets series, which should be daunting, but if they win one of those, they'll be fine. Then they're going to play Baltimore and Pittsburgh, both in Philadelphia, 7 games. While we're out there tangling with the West, that's not what you want.
No, it's not favorable.
10 of their next 13 games are at home, and even their road game is in New York, which isn't far from Philly. It's a bus ride. And Cubs, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh are the teams that they're playing. I mean, that is like, you couldn't set up a better. I mean, those are almost like, if this was college football, it's like having 3 of your next 4 weeks are homecoming games. Ugh. It's going to be tough. I think your average Braves fan's not paying attention. They go, we're up 4.5. We're going to be cruising. Do. Better figure out a way to beat the Rockies. That's all I'm getting at.
I don't think they cough up the lead, but I think it gets to 1.5, probably tied, and they finish it in the end, heads up, and pull themselves back apart. And then I think that series against Philly heads up is going to be for the division. Now, granted, they each have 3 games at the end of that afterwards that could make it, but that's going to be the heads up crucial series right there, because I think they'll probably go into that tied or within a half game of each other.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough road. And like I say, it all begins tonight. Braves have got to win this series, and they really need a sweep. They really do. And the biggest question mark to me is tonight, because they got Tuki Toussaint going to the hill, and he has looked like junk the last couple of weeks. I mean, absolute junk. And they put him back in the rotation. They take Drew Smiley and pull him out. Everyone's like, get rid of Smiley, get rid of Smiley. Smiley was pitching okay. He wasn't great, but he was pitching fine for number 5. And they go and they get greedy and they put Tuki back in. And whatever he had on that layoff, he has not pitched well at all. He needs a big, big game and in a big, big way, because if he doesn't pitch well tonight, I don't know if he makes it to his Sunday start, because you're going to put him against San Francisco in San Fran.
Nope.
I'm gonna have to say no on that one. What is your walk-off for the day, sir?
Well, since you alluded you did not stay up last night, I hope you have already seen the entirety of last night's overtime.
Oh, yeah.
If you have not, you must watch that today at some point. Anybody that has it recorded, it is worth watching. That is still one of the craziest scenarios I've ever seen.
Yeah, I tape all the games, so any part that I go to sleep in.
I didn't know if you had a chance to watch it this morning. Just the whole the going for the field goal. Obviously the game wasn't over. You're at the 1 yard line. You don't punch it in. The interception. I mean, and then you go for the field goal on second down after you get the fumble and you get the delay of game. Yeah, it just was. I've never seen anything like that. The closest thing was when, and I forget who the Eagles were playing when they didn't realize that ties could happen. That's the only other mad craziness I've seen in NFL overtime.
That was Donovan McNabb, wasn't it?
Yes, and I don't even remember who they were playing. I just remember it was the Eagles.
That's at least 15 years ago, I think.
So the last night was the most overtime drama I've had in 15 years. That was an amazing game, or it was for me.
I'm sure Raider Nation tore up Las Vegas last night.
Oh, there is no doubt about it. I don't know if that stadium was prepared to handle 2 celebrations in one night, because they walked it off the first time.
Yeah, it looks like they're re-showing it right now, some of the highlights. But anyways, I know you got to run, sir, so we will see you on Friday, Football Friday, and hopefully it'll lead to much better results this coming weekend. And we got a big game. Alabama, Florida,
and I can't wait to talk about it.
Oh my God.
I might prepare Tony. I might have to drop in a little bit early.
That is going to be one hell of a game. And
I'm pulling for neither team.
I'm pulling for injuries.
I wasn't gonna say it.
Nah, I'm not pulling for injuries.
Pulling for the rest, baby. See you Friday.
Later.
It's important to remember the value of taking time for ourselves to do the things that help us grow and explore, like learning something new. And now with the Great Courses Plus, it's never been easier to experience the joys of learning. The Great Courses Plus offers thousands of streaming videos that cover hundreds of fascinating topics, from World War II to choosing the perfect wine. You can even take a course on the U.S. government or dealing with stress and anxiety. And because the Great Courses Plus partners with world-class professors and experts, you're always receiving thoroughly vetted, high-quality content from every lecture. Plus, you can watch or listen anytime, anywhere with the Great Courses Plus app. So take a little time for you. Sign up for the Great Courses Plus today for a free month of unlimited access. Visit thegreatcoursesplus.com/radio to get started. That's thegreatcoursesplus.com/radio.
Now, does anybody in here have a valid reason for leaving this classroom? Timothy.
I got to go pick up my daughter.
You're excused.
The mullet isn't just a hairdo. It is definitely a lifestyle. You're carrying on like a legacy, like your last name, you know? The people that did this in the 80s, they weren't doing it just because, they thought it was a cool hairdo. No, they were doing it because they were badass. You know, if someone asks if you want extra mayonnaise, you have to say yes. This is bringing back like the Paul Bunyan. Men, we don't shave our legs. We have chest hair. But yeah, that's the whole lifestyle of the mullet.
Armchair.
Big news and the big games covered in the Big Ten by the Armchair Quarterbacks all year long.
Averaging just under 38 on 44 kicks this year. Nice high kick, got a little wind under it, and a run powered by Well, the ball is actually a little short of the 1 yard line now. It is 4th down, the final play, unless they can stick it in the end zone. Andre Johnson, Roscoe Parrish, and Kellen Winslow, and Dorsey under pressure. Throws it! They went to Hickman. And Penn State well-timed the blitz. LeVar Arrington, the All-America candidate, came across.
Well, it was a great athletic play by LeVar Arrington. As you see, he times his blitz very well, leaves his feet, and hits Hickman in the backfield.
Big Ten football covered in the Southeast by the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Hi, this is Britney Spears.
What up, this Jay-Z.
This is Jennifer Lopez. Armchair.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong.
Good morning and welcome back here to the Armchair Quarterbacks. We are coming to you live from CBS Sports Radio and YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe us today on YouTube, Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube. So we're finally official. So if you go youtube.com/armchair quarterbacks and the number 1, you will get the show. So there you go there. So see what's going on with that. A lot of things to get into today before we leave you. First thing I want to talk about is the early lines. And I don't know if we'll get into anything else because you know how we do when it comes to the betting lines. When you get to the early lines, you start looking at things that could be intriguing. That pretty much will take up, I'm sure, most of the show. But we're going to try to get into a couple of other things. But the early betting lines, to me, are extremely intriguing as waking up on a morning where, we didn't talk about this in the first part. I got a little sidetracked because of the Clay Helton thing being fired from USC. But did y'all watch the normal broadcast or did you watch the Manning cast? Because I watched the Manning cast, and I meant to bring this up to Justin. I totally slipped my mind, but I watched the Manning cast and I absolutely enjoyed it. It was they finished it off with Russell Wilson at the end. And I was a little surprised because he was kind of a dud. And Russell Wilson is well-spoken and whatnot, but it seemed like he was just tired or whatever. So I feel like they're going to have a non-football player at the end, not a current football player, because he's probably exhausted. But he just seemed he was kind of going through the motions. Kelsey brought it. I thought he was pretty good. Ray Lewis was the second quarter. He was good. And, of course, Charles Barkley in the first quarter. He is always phenomenal. He doesn't have to try. Charles Barkley is just – he's a genuinely funny guy. But them talking about and going back and forth about Eli and Ray Lewis and beginnings of their careers, and they're throwing the stats about how bad Eli was against Baltimore in their first game against each other. That was a lot of fun. Eli poking it at Peyton, and here's the thing. When this news first came out, there were a lot of shows out there that were kind of poo-pooing on the idea because they said, I really want to see Peyton go in there and break it down and do a typical in the booth type game. I thought he did phenomenal. I thought he was incredible on the way he would talk about what the quarter, him and Eli going back and forth, going as far as saying, well, this is what was going on. This is what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. Kelsey was entertaining, but Kelsey is not a student of the game. You can just tell he's a very talented tight end, and that's pretty much all he brings to the table. Ray Lewis was very entertaining. You whether you love him or hate him, Ray Lewis was very entertaining because you got him telling the Mannings what was going on in his head when he was playing, and the Mannings doing the same. As far as I'm reading this, what are you doing at that time? And I thought that was a lot of fun, but I'm not opposed to them just bringing in celebrities that have nothing to do with football. Like Charles Barkley, that was great. I would like to see them bring in, I don't want to get a lot of dopey celebrities, but I wouldn't mind them bringing in guys and gals who are big fans of whatever team's playing that night. Right. And so I don't have any off the top of my head. But I'm thinking of like if you were doing a college basketball version of this and you brought in Ashley Judd, right? Like that's what I want. I would like to see at least one of those quarters when they bring in somebody. I would like to see someone who is a big fan of said team that's playing. And to me, that would be a lot of fun for a lot of reasons. But you could really see them get into it, and I'm sure that they have stories just like all fans do. Of this is when the team broke my heart. This is when I became a fan. This is why I've stayed a fan, et cetera, et cetera. So if you didn't catch it, the next Manning cast, I think they're doing it again next Monday night. I think that's what I heard. I know they're only doing like 6 of these all year long, which is disappointing, but I get it. They may not want to wear it out and they want to pick and choose on the matchups. But look, I highly suggest watching that over the ESPN broadcast. They're normal in their booth. Their booth guys are okay, but there's no one in that booth that I would say is terribly entertaining. And so the Mannings are just, look, Peyton Manning he's one of a kind. He is absolutely one of a kind. And I'm seeing some of the comments here. Michael saying Snoop Dogg to USC. That would be funny. A guy who, I know Snoop Dogg never graduated college. I don't even know if he graduated high school. If he goes out and coaches your team. But yeah, I watched. I can't get into the ESPN broadcasts anymore. To me, they're kind of boring, and it's not as bad as it was. Don't get me wrong. When Booger McFarland was there, it was terrible. But they don't have the problem with because I'm not going to kill their play-by-play guy. He's doing his job. The problem with their two color commentators is they're too much alike. They need to have a bombastic figure and then someone who's straight down the middle, which is what they have right now in Greasy and Riddick. I would say get rid of Greasy, put him on something else, because Greasy does a fine job, but put him on something else, put him on college football, whatever. Keep Riddick because he does have the experience in the NFL front office, and then get someone with some damn energy, because that's what that misses. Because growing up on Monday Night Football, and look, I'm going to show my age on this, but you always had someone that you were really excited to hear, whether you liked them or hated them. You wanted to hear what they had to say about whatever was going down in the world of the football. Goes back to Howard Cosell. People hated him, people loved him, but you watched him because you wanted to either cuss him or say, "That's right, Howard, you tell him." Goes back to even when they had Dennis Miller. I know he wasn't extremely popular, but at least he was entertaining. I think his problem was he got himself too highbrow. He was just too highbrow. You know, he would make comments and references to like the Prussian War, and everyone's going. This before Google existed in the same right that they exist today. They existed, but they didn't have the capabilities. So everyone's at home going, "What the hell did he just say?" I thought Tony Kornheiser was good. I enjoyed him. People killed him. I thought he was entertaining. Someone like that to counter the middle of the road guys like Riddick and Greasy and Levy? Is there a play-by-play guy? Maybe you rotate a guy in and out or a gal in and out with that. I don't know. But I just, anytime that Monday Night Football has been on in the last several years, I typically mute it. I'm either watching a television show, streaming something on another device, or if I'm watching another sporting event, that is what I have the volume on. So if it's a baseball game, that's what I have the volume on. If we get later into when we get into the fall, early winter, I might have the volume on a Tampa Bay Lightning game or a Boston Celtic. They're broadcasting to me. It's kind of dull. So, yeah, I agree. Peyton Manning over Greasy would be amazing, but Peyton doesn't want to do it. So that's the problem. Peyton does not want a 17-week season. He does not want to do it that many times. And I don't think he really wants to sit in a booth, wants to be in the comfort zone. He knows he can do it. He knows he can get paid very well, by the way. But he can get paid and sit at home and do what he did last night and be fine. And it kind of breaks up his lifestyle, which is probably doing a whole lot of nothing. Right. So I think he just wants the freedom to be able to do certain things. And oh my God, I just saw this because I guess I was watching the Monday Night Football game at the time. I didn't see the play. Did you see this play with the Cardinals and Mets and the terrible throw that was on the way to first base? It was so far off that the first base umpire was staring at whether or not the guy's going to be safe or not. And the ball hit him in the face. It was that bad of a throw. The hell is that about? Almost looks intentional. Makes you wonder if that guy made a pass at his girlfriend or his wife or something. Like, the hell, man, that looks like something out of a movie. We're like, oh, we're gonna fake like we're just gonna fake that we're doing this. I'll put the video up here in a second, but I don't know what the hell's going on there. Okay, early lines. Let's go ahead and take a look at the early lines. And I'm gonna jump at college football just for a few games, and then we'll go to the NFL, because, by the way, there is a game on Thursday night, Ohio versus Louisiana Lafayette. Who cares, man? Can we get better college football games on Thursday nights? We used to have phenomenal ones. Now we've got nothing. Friday night, though, we do have Central Florida, Louisville. That one's interesting. 7-point line on there. And the Maryland Terps, they're a 7.5-point favorite at Illinois. So those are some pretty interesting games on Friday. Now, we jump to Saturday, and these are the games. This is interesting to me. The Miami Hurricanes are only a 6.5-point favorite at Michigan State, and Michigan State has looked really, really good. Now, I think they're going to play their best opponent so far in Miami, and it is in Miami. And I'm sure Brian's going to chime in and tell us how Miami's going to cover the spread and they're going to be good and all this and all that. But he said that about Appalachian State, and Appalachian State should have beat Miami. They blew that game. So, and it's an early kickoff. This is going to be an interesting game. It's a really high number too, 55.5. Usually those early, really those early lines, usually jump off a little too high. By the way, Urban Meyer is being quoted as saying, I don't really know that word other than what we've all got our butt kicked. Obviously they bleeped it out. Let's tighten up and go. I believe in this team. I believe in our staff. He was talking about losing. Urban Meyer already looks 12 years older than when they signed him just a few months ago. He's already starting to look like a president. He's like, he's kind of like, the next thing I know, we're going to see Urban Meyer licking an ice cream cone on TV. Like, that's going to be the next thing. Like, he is not dealing with this well. He's not dealing with losing well at all. And it takes years off of you. These NFL, look, it's much more difficult to win with the Jacksonville Jaguars than it is to win with Ohio State or Florida. Because, like I said yesterday, 10 out of 12 games, you're heavy favorites. As long as you don't trip over your own feet, you're going to win a college football game if you're at that level. National Football League, every single game you could lose, and you have to do the little things. It normally comes down to 2 or 3 plays. Now, Jacksonville got their doors blown off, so it did not come down to 2 or 3 plays. But usually NFL games, they come down to 2 or 3 plays that if they went the other way, the other team wins. Back to the spreads, that Miami-Michigan State one's really intriguing. I'll skip over the smaller games and just jump to the big ones. Virginia Tech and West Virginia, that's interesting. Noon kickoff. The Hokies are getting 3 points. Now, Nebraska and Oklahoma, they're trying to build this as a big, Fox, college football is back. Blit. Oklahoma, Nebraska. It was the game of the century. In 1971, it's a fit. Yeah, and that was the last time that game was relevant. Oklahoma's a 22.5-point favorite, and I don't think that's enough. I think Oklahoma's going to absolutely roast. I'll be interested. They don't have the lineup yet. I'll be interested to see what the over-under on Oklahoma's total points are. Because if it's a 22.5-point spread, that's telling me that they're probably going to have Oklahoma's over-under around 40. And if it's only like 40, I am banging the over all day long on that one. Cincinnati's a 4-point favorite at Indiana. We're going to find out if Indiana's got some juice, if they're going to stand up and actually play some good football this year. They've got the talent. They just have to show up. Now, the later games, this is the game I think everyone's going to be tuned in for. Alabama, Florida. The Crimson Tide are a 15.5-point favorite in Gainesville. I do believe that's a little too much. I totally believe Alabama's going to win this game. I don't think they'll quote-unquote struggle. But I think Florida will put up enough points where 15.5 is just a little too rich for my blood. Here's how sad it's gotten at Florida State. We're a 5.5-point underdog at Wake Forest. 5.5-point underdog at Wake Forest. Wow. That's just not even funny anymore. Then you've got SMU, 13-point favorite at Louisiana Tech. I don't even know why I mentioned that game. I was getting to the second game. Tulsa, who's looked decent, they're going to play at Ohio State this week, and you would think Ohio State is going to be revved up and want to show. Ohio State could have a hangover there. 27.5 points is the spread. That's a big spread for a team that is coming off of a loss that they're going to be down the dumps about. Tony's favorite, as he calls them, the America's sweetheart, the Texas San Antonio Roadrunners, they're 13.5-point favorites against MTSU. Watch out. That could be a tricky one right there. And the night games, some of the bigger games, how about South Carolina? The South Carolina Gamecocks. They get rid of Will Muschamp. Going to turn the page. They're at the Georgia Bulldogs this weekend. 31-point underdog. And I'm not even saying that that's ridiculous. I'm just saying, if Muschamp was your head coach, Carolina fans, you think you'd be a 31-point underdog? Hell no. Careful what you wish for. Here's another big one. This is a big one. Auburn is getting 6 points at Penn State. And I think there's always SEC bias in the betting. From what I've seen so far, Penn State looks like the much better team. I would think they could cover that 6, but that's a very I think it'll climb too. If you want that 6 with Penn State, you better jump on it now, because I believe by the time we get to kickoff, it's going to be around a touchdown plus. North Carolina's a 9-point favorite against Virginia. Virginia looked pretty good. I was shocked. Virginia throttled Illinois. That's an interesting one. Let's see if we got any more. Stanford coming off their big win. They're an 11-point favorite at Vanderbilt. How did Stanford end up playing Vanderbilt in Nashville? That's actually a pretty damn good get for Vanderbilt football program to get the Stanford Cardinal to come into Nashville. I know Vandy's an SEC team, but come on. It's a wink, wink, and a barely. They're not an SEC football team. They're not really. They're only off a technicality. So to me, that is a very interesting one. Let's go ahead and transition over to the NFL picks. By the way, later today, I will be dropping the fantasy football. I'll be dropping the fantasy football pickups. So you want to be looking out for that. I'll probably put it out very early afternoon, because I know people want to have a chance to look at what, who they should get and who they shouldn't get. The waiver wire watch is what we'll be calling it. But you got a lot of guys out there, and basically you're gonna have to comb through. Is this guy worth me putting on my team? Is it worth me dropping other guys? And so it'll be a pretty quick video. I'll be dropping that later on today. All right, National Football League to Thursday night's game. The Giants are getting 3 points against Washington. That should be a very interesting game. What I like the most about this, the over-under is 41 points. That's pretty low. And even as bad as these offenses could be, that's pretty low. So I'm kind of favoring the over in that one. As far as the games on Sunday, we'll just grab a couple because we don't have time to do the whole 9 yards. But here's a couple of interesting ones that jump off out at you. First of all, the Browns are 12.5-point favorites at home against Houston. I don't think that's enough. I really don't think that's enough. I think they're going to roast them. But Denver is giving up 6 against Jacksonville. This is one of these tricky spots where people are like, man, Jacksonville sucks. Denver got the big win. They're going to jump on it. I think that line will go up. And the moment it gets a hair closer to 7 points, I'm jumping on the Jaguars. They're going to cover that spread. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff. That's another West Coast. This is 2 consecutive weeks, West Coast, East Coast. And Denver will probably find a way to win. But that's going to be a very, very tough cover on the road. So you want to be aware of that. The Patriots are 6-point favorite on the road in New York. I think the Patriots are going to roast the Jets. The Jets, a lot of good things to like from the first game, but that Patriots defense should be able to clamp down on Zach Wilson, and I don't think the Jets defense is going to be able to do the same thing. So the 6 points to the Patriots is very intriguing right now. A lot of these lines are going to jump, y'all. Another game that I think is a little skewed a little bit is you've got the Chargers giving up 3 points at home against the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys go in there and get that W. I really do. That's going to be a very good game, but the Cowboys, their offense looked elite. The Chargers just happened to play a team that lost their starting quarterback. But the Cowboys, they went toe to toe with the world champs. I think the Cowboys could be for real this year. The other one that has my eye, Tennessee getting 6 points. If you can get that a little closer to 7.5, Seattle tends to do this. They'll come off of a big road win like they did against Indianapolis, and they may not lose the game to Tennessee, but it'll be like a really ugly win. It'll be like a 23-20 type of ball game where they find a way to win in the end, but you're like, God, they look like crap. And Seattle does this more than any other West Coast team that I've seen at home. They come back off that big victory, and I don't think they rest on their laurels. They just don't seem to hit on all cylinders 2 consecutive weeks. So there you have that. All right, it's time to turn back time as we put another wake up y'all to bed. And of course, remember later on you want to catch the waiver wire watch that I'll be dropping today, because it's a lot. Look, there's wide receivers, there's running backs, there's quarterbacks, there's a lot of good streaming options for this week, and a lot of us are dealing with injuries. All right, here we go on turn back time here on. It's already September 14th, 2021. Hard to believe that we're already there. All right. On this date, 1923. Sure, a lot of people have heard of this man, though they never saw him they may never have seen live footage of him. But on this date, 1923, heavyweight boxer Jack Dempsey, in his 4th heavyweight boxing title defense, recovers after being sent through the ropes to knock out the Argentine challenger Luis Firpo in the 2nd round of the Polo Grounds in New York City. That's back when they used to do these fights. There were very few venues that they could seat the many people that they want to. So they would do the fights. They would just build the canvas right there in the middle of the Polo Grounds, which obviously was home to the New York Baseball Giants. Later, the New York Football Giants would play there. And it's kind of funny that, 100 years ago, most definitely, baseball and prize fighting were kings. And it wasn't even close. I know a lot of youngsters have a hard time to wrap their head around it. Nobody watched football. Nobody went to football games. Football was looked upon as a degenerate gambler type of event, and the college football game was the pure sport. But even then, you only went if you had graduated from said school or were currently going to the school. Prize fights in Major League Baseball were it. And Jack Dempsey was one of the legends of his time. He was one of the last guys that transitioned from the bare knuckle boxing, which was in the late 1800s and early 1900s, to actually putting gloves on. Birthdays. It's your birthday today. All right. Dead guy. Jerry Coleman was born on this date in 1924. He lasted 90 years. How about that? Second baseman in Major League Baseball, Jerry Coleman. That's pretty impressive. If you can make it 90 years, I know I never will. If you can make it 90 years, tip of the cap to you, sir. All right, folks that are still kicking that you may have heard of. What about Jimmy Butler? Ever heard of that guy? He's 32 years old today. Of course, he's from Houston, Texas. I keep thinking that he's going to leave one day and end up back with the Rockets, but the Rockets have got to get it together. Also 32 years old today, born in Salt Lake City, Tony Finau, American golfer, and of course, Ryder Cup champion in 2018, British Open in 2019. And so we say happy birthday to them. As I always try to get the people off the beaten path, because you know what's going to happen when ESPN does theirs every afternoon. They always like grab like someone of great fame. Another guy that I think deserves. Excuse me. I would have thought he was older than this, to be honest with you. Larry Brown, the great coach Larry Brown. He's 81 years old today, and I honestly would have thought Larry Brown was much older than that. Because I feel like Larry Brown was in his 70s when he got out of the game 15, 20 years ago. So Larry Brown, of course, played for the Knicks, and then, of course, he coached for almost every team known to man. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. Have a great day tomorrow. We've got Sean O'Toole with us. On Waiver Wire Wednesday, we're going to react to pickups and whatnot. Thursday, we got Joey. He'll be with us. We'll be diving into, obviously, it's football Thursday night football kickoff. So Giants and Redskins will be a very big topic, along with everything else in the world of football. And we will see you mañana. Waiver Wire Watch will drop here in a few hours. Have a great day, y'all.
Goodbye, sweetheart, when it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart, goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on these CBS Sports affiliates and catching the show on YouTube Live. We're here weekdays. Find Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live today. Please subscribe and share and take us everywhere you go. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for Southern sports talk, live from the First Coast.